Okay, the game is Aliens. This time it's war. This was an old, you can't really read that, but this was an old Leading Edge Games game from back in 1989. Leading Edge Games, now long extinct. And there's been no subsequent board game of Aliens, at least not an official one that I've been aware of, which is kind of tragic, really, given that Aliens is one of my favorite movies, and its influence on popular sci-fi culture since it came out is hard to underestimate. It's just about any video game that you've played since the mid to late 80s that's sci-fi related and or shooter related has some elements of Aliens in it, almost certainly, whether you're dealing with futuristic soldiers, the look of the soldiers, the weaponry, the concept of armed Marines fighting aliens is the look and feel of it all seems to be touching in some points on Aliens, and which of course Aliens itself was of course borrowed heavily from sci-fi tropes prior to it. Naturally you think of Starship Troopers and other sci-fi hostile alien type tropes prior to that. So but surprisingly, in the board game universe, nobody, especially Fantasy Flight, which is given to snapping up whatever licenses they can get a hold of, nobody's ever snagged up the Aliens license from 20th Century Fox. And I don't know if that's because Fox wants too much money for it, or if it's because nobody can, or some other company currently has the rights to Aliens to make board games and just isn't using it, which just seems stupid to me, given that seems like it would just be a license to print money. Why not exploit the hell out of it the same way that the Star Wars universe has got thousands of different games, or just about any other licensed property that you could, Lord of the Rings, for example, that you could get lots of games out of and make lots of money off of. But anyway, no one has, so nonetheless, this game is now basically it's reached Grail status for some people. I actually bought it back when it came out. I was in 8th grade back in 1989, bought it at my local comic book store. Then a year or two later bought the expansion that came out, which was not actually a boxed game like the original. The expansion was just this just a rule book that came with another map that has, which I may not be able to lay out entirely in front of the camera, but the other map for the expansion just has basically the alien nest that the Marines, in the expansion scenarios, the Marines can go into the alien nest and try and rescue their comrades, assuming that they make it out of the reactor room and or operations. So the game is set up in a number of scenarios based on the movie. And that's something else that in all of the licensed Aliens-related video games that have come out over the years, none of them ever did what I really wanted to do, which was just relive the movie. If I take my Marines into that reactor room and I'm in control of them, can I do better than they did in the movie? That's what this game posits. And we'll take a look here at the map, which you can see has plenty of images from the movie and a number of map areas. Over here you've got turn track for the reactor room and for the operations and air ducts. So here at the, and sorry for the shadow, I've got unfortunately lights overhead. My other table is currently occupied with other stuff. So I've got this set up on my spare table, and the lighting is not optimal for filming, but at least you can get a general sense, despite my weird shadows cropping up all over the map. Here is a map of the reactor room that the Marines are in for the first main scenario. If you remember the movie, they go into the reactor, sub-level 3, under the main cooling towers, and there they find one surviving colonist who quickly gives birth to an alien, and they torch her, and then that wakes up the whole hive, and the Marines get attacked and mostly slaughtered before Ripley drives the APC into the hive in order to rescue the survivors. So you get to play this out in the game. You control each of the Marines, and they each have little cards here. You've got Apone, Crow, Hudson, Bill Paxton, Vasquez, Wierzbowski, never has a single line in the movie, and if you can spot him, this picture here is a stock photo from promotional photographs. You never actually see that scene of him in the movie. You can spot him in the movie. That's kind of a fun thing to try and do, see if you can spot Wierzbowski. He's in about 4 or 5 scenes. Only one scene where you can actually see his face clearly. You've got Frost, and he's the guy that gets lit on fire and falls over the stairwell, which is one of the rules in the game that you can choose to employ. You got Drake here, my personal favorite. Dietrich, she's the first one to get it. She's the one who incinerates Frost. And Hicks, good old Michael Biehn. The game then provides counters for all the Marines. You can see here my well-worn, after 25 years of use, different counters for all the different Marines. Over here you've got counters for all the aliens. Could be a lot of those. Then you've got counters over here for some of the characters that'll show up in operations. Ripley, Newt, Burke, Gorman. You've also got counters for Bishop, Spunkmeyer, and Farrow. Farrow was the dropship pilot, and Spunkmeyer was the co-pilot. Bishop was the android in the movie, played by Lance Henriksen. Those counters are only used in the expansion. There's a little scenario for Farrow and Spunkmeyer in the dropship in the movies. Spunkmeyer gets killed off screen, and Farrow gets jumped by an alien in the cockpit and crashes the dropship. There's a little scenario to sort of fight that out and see if Farrow manages to survive, and or Spunkmeyer. Spunkmeyer almost never does. Farrow sometimes will survive the dropship crash, and in which case, if that scenario goes well, then the survivors from the reactor room and Farrow and or Spunkmeyer and Ripley, Newt, Bishop, Gorman, and Burke can all do the Hunt for the Queen scenario in one of the expansion scenarios. However, I've got set up here, and they're sort of hard to see because I primed them but never actually painted them. These were the Marines, the miniatures that Leading Edge released, that are used for the game. There's one for each of the different Marines, as well as Bishop, Ripley, Newt, all the off-screen characters. And so they were released in 2 packs of characters, and I bought both of them at the time when they came out, and so I've held on to these, which is really neat because they're a perfect size, perfect scale for the game, so they fit perfectly in the squares for the spaces. So someday I'll probably get around to painting them. I never did because at the time when I was younger, I was not, I hadn't read anything about painting, and didn't really know very much about painting miniatures like these. The most I'd ever painted were historic Civil War miniatures, which are pretty easy. The Colonial Marines all wear camouflage, and I'm not really sure, I wasn't really sure how to paint that. Now I could probably find a decent online tutorial to show me how to paint these miniatures. So the game is played in a series of turns, and there's a turn track here that has numbers on it. Those numbers indicate how many aliens drop each turn. As you can see, you start with 4, and then it's 2 pretty much all the way through the reactor room scenario. The red numbers are an optional rule where you can use the bonus bug rule. So if you roll a 0 when you roll to drop aliens, that'll add bonus bugs to that particular turn. I always play with bonus bugs because actually the game's too easy without them. You really want a lot of aliens running at these guys because once you know how to play and marshal your firepower, you can cut through them pretty easily. Then the trick is just remembering to, or learning to best maximize your Marine's firepower. So on each of their cards here, each Marine has a weapon. There's 2 weapons listed there for the reactor. For the reactor room scenario, you use the top level, the top weapon listed. If you remember in the reactor room from the movie, the Marines had to discard or unload all of their pulse rifles, and because they were underneath the reactor and couldn't have their ammunition from their pulse rifles puncturing the reactor and causing a nuclear meltdown. So they restricted to flame units here, which Apone has. Then you got a couple guys with pistols, which are, as you can see by the numbers there. Even if you don't know what those numbers mean, you can see a couple of zeros in there, and that tells you these are probably useless. Their range is poor. So you got Hudson and Crow with pistols. However, in the movie, secretly Vasquez, one of the smart gun operators, and her compatriot Drake, they each had the smart guns, and they kept theirs secretly operational, unbeknownst to Gorman and Apone. So they've got machine guns, and they're key to the reactor scenario in doing cleanup and keeping Marines alive. Wierzbowski here with a flame unit, Frost, another pistolero, Drake, machine gun, Dietrich, a flame unit, and Hicks brought his trusty shotgun, which he likes to keep handy for close encounters. Each of these Marines, you can see they have an action number and a melee number. The actions are the number of actions that they can spend per turn doing actions such as either melee, move, or fire their weapon. The numbers under the aim there indicate how many actions they spend and the rolls that they need to achieve on a 10-sided die in order to successfully hit the target. So you can see Apone here, if he spends one of his actions to shoot at an alien, he's got a good chance. If the alien's right next to him, he's got a good chance of killing it an 8 or less on a 10-sided die. Pretty easy. As you can see, if he spends 2 actions on an adjacent alien, it's an automatic kill. Same thing for 3. Same thing for an alien that's 2 hexes away or 3 to 4 hexes away. The flame units are very effective, but they are limited in range. They have a range of 4 hexes, and you cannot fire through Marines using a flame unit. The pistols, as you can see, are just about worthless unless you're right next to the alien. But of course, one of the key things of the game is you don't want to be right next to aliens when you're using bullet weapons, because you have to then roll for acid splash on anybody who's adjacent to the alien that's killed. As I've discovered through thousands of times playing this game, well, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of times playing this game, being adjacent for that acid splash roll almost always has terrible, catastrophic consequences. So it is one of the things that arguably makes the game the most fun and the most infuriating experience possible. Because at some point you will have aliens either on Marines or adjacent to Marines, and in order to have any chance of saving them, somebody's going to have to fire at them with a bullet weapon. If you kill aliens with the flame unit and they're adjacent to you, then you don't have to worry about acid splash. The downside is that if an alien is on one of your Marines, you cannot use a flame unit to rescue him, because you would obviously incinerate the poor Marine that is fighting with the alien. So your turn sequence goes, aliens will drop, and you'll roll 2 dice and cross the dice on these numbers here. You'll have one number as the down column or your x-axis, and one number is then represented out here on the map as your sort of y-axis. So say you roll an 8, 7, then you would place an alien on the 8, 7 space, and then each alien, when it lands, gets to move 1 space towards the nearest Marine. So this alien would move here, and right off the bat you've got aliens that are adjacent to your Marines. Before aliens drop, on the first turn, aliens drop first because there's no alien movement, but the first part of the turn sequence is actually alien movement. So aliens move 4 hexes, so it becomes an exercise when you move your Marines of trying to figure out where are aliens on the map that are already on the map, where they'll be able to move to. You know, how far can you move your Marine and still be out of range of aliens that will move at the start of next turn. So aliens move 4 spaces. The Marines, most of them can move 2 because they have 2 actions, but you've got Hicks who has 3, and Sergeant Apone who also has 3, so they can move 3 spaces. So your Marines cannot move as fast as the aliens, naturally, because the aliens are evil, awesome xenomorphs that are much stronger than humans. So aliens, that's another one of the strategies of the game, is always making sure you move your Marines to make sure they're always out of range of any potential aliens that are still on the map. Of course, that doesn't mean every turn. The scary thing about these numbers that are all over the map is that wherever your Marines are, they could end up having an alien drop right on top of them at the start of the turn, which can cause all kinds of horrible chaos. Your Marines can fight aliens. When an alien lands on a Marine, you've got this chart over here that you roll on, where you've got dead, incapacitated, wounded, grabbed, in combat, or alien loses. So if your Marine is incapacitated, he's laid on the ground, he can't go anywhere. If he's dead, that's self-explanatory. Wounded, you flip his card over to this wounded side, and your alien or your Marine will suffer reduced stats. Grabbed just means that your Marine's okay, but he's going to be grabbed and carried away if somebody doesn't rescue him by the end of the turn. In combat means the alien and the Marine are sort of in a standoff in the same hex, and that your Marine's not in danger of being taken away next turn, but he will have to roll on the alien chart again at the start of next turn to see what happens to him. So hopefully before now and then you can have he can either kill the alien himself or somebody else can shoot it. There's your acid splash table. You roll 0 on the acid spray for whenever an alien dies in a hex adjacent to a Marine that wasn't killed by a flame unit. You have to roll on that table, see what happens. You'd think, oh, 3 to 9, nothing happens. Well, I bet that's usually the result. I'm wrong. Usually the result is 0, 1, or 2, as I've learned through personal experience. Something almost always happens on that acid splash that you hate. So that's basically it. I mean, I guess one key fact of the game is that the order of your Marines, their order in the turn sequence is set. You cannot change it, and that's very important because you want to have your guys go in the right order to best maximize your firepower based on the weapons you have. So I've always organized my Marines according to the squads they were in the movie, where you've got Apone, Crow, Hudson, Vasquez, and Wierzbowski as Squad A, and Frost, Drake, Dietrich, and Hicks as Squad B. Because here you've got Apone, he's a flame unit, good to start a turn off with a guy with a flame unit. That way if aliens have moved up adjacent to people, you can shoot them with the flame unit. Plus he has 3 actions, so he can go first and sort of protect the weaker guys that just have pistols, and then still usually have an action left over to move. And then Vasquez here, so you got flame unit, pistol guys, machine gun, another flame unit, and then you move over to Squad B, and you've got another pistol, machine gun, flame unit, and shotgun. And Hicks's shotgun is actually pretty effective. You can play with ammo restrictions on, so for making it even harder, so say for the reactor scenario, Hicks only has 8 shots with his shotgun, so you have to use those carefully because you're going to be shooting a lot of aliens. So I like to play with the ammo restrictions on, makes for a more challenging game. Anyway, that's basically just a breakdown of how you play the reactor room scenario specifically. Most of the other scenarios you can see over here. You've got the operations room. This was the battle in the movie where Hudson gets killed, and Vasquez fires the grenades into operations to clear the aliens. Burke traps them there and runs away, and then they get away through the air ducts, which you can see here on the map. So for that scenario, the Marines have to stay in operations and fight for, I think, the first, on the turn track, first 7 or 8 turns. and then they can try and make a break for it to the hallway where Burke has sealed the door. So then they have to cut through the door, make it to the air ducts, seal the door, make it to the air ducts, and then get out without any aliens killing all of them. Easier said than done, especially if you're doing it with the same characters they had in the movie. If you get enough of these guys out of the reactor room, you can just bring them with you. It's done like a little campaign. You can just bring them with you to operations, and hopefully you'll have more guys than what they had in the movie, because operations is really tough if you just have Hicks, Vasquez, and Hudson, along with the sort of useless Gorman and the semi-useless Ripley, she has a pulse rifle, but she's not very good with it because she's a civilian. So that's the base game. I'll probably play through and sort of do a little maybe DAR or AAR video of some of these scenarios, and maybe one of the expansion ones too. But I just wanted to go over the basics of the base game, explain how combat works. It's a very simple game, very simple system, but very, very good, I think, for replicating the chaos of the movie in a very simple way. And I think it's also a fantastic solitaire game because it's essentially a co-op. You are playing against the game. You could have somebody control the aliens if you wanted to, but the aliens' movement requirements are always just move four spaces to the nearest Marine. So it doesn't take a lot of, there's not really any craftiness there. They're going to move right to the closest guy. So usually it's more fun to play co-op, and each person controls either a squad or an individual Marine, depending on how many you've got playing, which makes for a lot of fun. So that's all for now. I will try and post more later.